Howdy, howdy. Welcome to my runcast, where again, there is no running. but I'll see the doctor later today, and he'll look at my stitches. He won't take them out, but he'll let me know how good everything looks, and if everything looks good, I'll start shadowboxing in earnest tomorrow, and then I'll try to start warming up my engine a little bit and getting some runs in and stuff like that, and then my stitches will be out after that. If you're just tuning in now and have no idea what I'm talking about, watch my last two runcasts. But basically my shins, both my shins have opened up from checking kicks in fights, and the one on the left has just been doing this like repeatedly. It opened in my last fight, got stitched ringside, and then it got infected. This is the first time I've ever had infected stitches, and it was kind of a huge problem because infections in Thailand can be pretty serious, and I did not take it seriously. And yeah, so I have stitches now, healing up. It's been like, I don't know, 15 days since the ordeal began, something like that. But I'm doing great. I'm great. Anyway, what I'm talking about on this runcast is, so a couple of nights ago, I was getting a little bit frustrated because you guys might imagine I get a lot of private messages, I get a lot of comments on things that are unrelated to what I'm actually posting about. So I did not put this out there. This actually was coming to me. I was being bombarded with this a little bit, just in comments and in people private messaging me. And basically people were asking me about my predictions for one championship in Denver and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And I ignore most of this because I don't watch one. I don't care. But I happened to be watching a show, a promotion at Samart's gym that was just being broadcast on the Moss Tele. Moss is Samart's, you could call her his wife. I don't think that they're married, but they're very long-term partners. So his long-term partner, Moss, is on her Facebook page, and I was watching that with Kevin, and we were like kind of laughing to ourselves about how good it was. It was actually, we had started watching a Pet Yindi show, but it's Friday, which Pet Yindi has stopped doing real promotions on Friday because they left Wrongsit. And so it's kind of like, it was kind of a big old mess. And we turned that off in order to watch the kids. And so I was actually, my kind of like feeling at that time was like, these kids, these like 8, 9, 10-year-old kids are better than what's on TV. But then I was also still getting messages because, you know, these fights were coming up very soon. And so I made a story that was like, stop asking me about Haggerty and Superlek. I don't watch one. I don't watch it. I'm watching these kids at Samart's gym, and they're better than anything on TV. 99% of the responses to that were people who were like 100% or like absolutely. There were lots of people who were like, how do I watch what you're watching? Which made me really happy. So I sent that link out to tons of people and explained that they were like breaking between each fight. So like if it wasn't live when they went to it, just wait, like refresh, and then go to the next fight when it's live again. And the fights were really good. Like they were very, very good. And Karahat is at Samart's gym. And I was texting with him and with Joro, who's one of Karahat's students, and the guys who were filming on the ring were like doing it vertically, which is so horrible to watch. So I'm like texting to them and I'm like, tell the guy who's filming to make it horizontal, and I could watch my TV. They would try to make it horizontal while they were filming. I'm like, no, tell him he has to wait until the next feed. Like I was totally engaging with trying to get a better angle of the fight. It was very funny. But so that was 99% of the responses were really great like that. But then I got a few that were, you know, well, many that were like, why don't you watch one? Because I basically said I don't watch it and didn't explain why. And people don't follow everything I do. I actually talk about why I don't like entertainment Muay Thai very often without like singling one out all the time. And so these are just people who don't follow everything that I do. So after that story, I posted another story that's a runcast where I was talking about why I resist entertainment Muay Thai. You can go watch that. And then a very, very, very few number of people called me an elitist, which I thought was really funny, because if not watching one makes you an elitist, that's recognizing that one is like low. Another person called me, I don't know, maybe a snob or something like that. I don't know. Those are of similar sentiment, that I'm an elitist and a snob because I don't like entertainment Muay Thai. I specifically said I don't watch one. I didn't say nobody should watch one. I said I don't watch one. Stop asking me about it. It'd be like, I don't watch roasts. Don't ask me about what I think about this particular roast that's on tomorrow. I don't watch them. That kind of thing. And then people calling me a snob for not watching it. But so I thought, you know, why don't I address in kind of a more direct manner why I don't like one or why I don't watch one? Or, you know, answer that question for people who are asking sincerely, and in the context of people who I don't actually fucking care if they think that I'm an elitist or a snob, but addressing why that's something to think about. So last night, I was actually watching boxing. I was watching Western boxing on TV from Perth, because Chart Chai, his champion, who I know as Knockout, they were using his real name in this fight, which I can't remember, but Knockout CP Freshmart was defending his minimum weight WBA title in Perth, Australia. He successfully defended. He's the longest reigning champion of the WBA ever. This was his 12th title defense, successful, amazing. But I was waiting for him to come on, and the higher weights on that show were not entertaining me. So I went for a walk, and I started thinking about this. So this is a like retelling, a little bit of the Tenacious D greatest song in the world, where I'm going to tell you what I was thinking about and muttering to myself, but after the fact. So this is just a tribute to what I was thinking about as I was doing that walk last night, because I'm trying to like remember what I was talking about. So I was trying to compare this idea of not liking entertainment Muay Thai, and specifically not liking one, because one to me is like the most entertainment Muay Thai out of entertainment Muay Thais. And also a little bit outside of it, because what their business model isn't even fight promotions, which, I don't know, like Thai Fight, for example, which is entertainment Muay Thai, their main goal is actually tourism. So they use the fights as a method for domestic tourism in Thailand. You go to Buriram to watch Sanchai, or you watched that fight on TV and you saw this really cool place in Uttaradit that you didn't know existed. It was near a temple, and you're like, oh, the next time we go on a road trip, we're going to go to Uttaradit. So basically, Thai Fight is tourism. It's domestic tourism in Thailand. That's the purpose of Thai Fight. And, you know, the cards and the stars and the fighters and all of that stuff is just kind of how they get that done. It's not actually a fight promotion. One is like this in the same way, where like they're not really a fight promotion. They're a business that sells their business to investors. So that's what their business is. Their business is not actually the fighters or the promotions. They don't actually aim to make money off of those. They have this nest egg from Middle Eastern investors that they use in order to create this promotion. But the fighters and the promotions and all of their stuff is serving two purposes. One is it's creating content. So they want highlight reels, clips, knockouts, this kind of thing. Content. They're creating content. And then they use those promotions, that content, those fighters, all of that stuff as commercials to investors to sell this business. It's not actually a fight promotion. An actual fight promotion is something that's like, someone asked me actually after this, they were like, do you think RWS is any better than one in an entertainment Muay Thai sense? One, it's a little bit closer to real Muay Thai, a little bit. Like they haven't changed the rules as much, so it's a little bit closer. But one of the reasons it's kind of like ethically or like functionally more or less like entertainment Muay Thai thing than one is because their purpose is actually the fight cards. Like they're trying to get people to go watch them. They need the gate. They have these kind of tournaments that make sense over time, like they go forward over time. So like who you last fought and who you're fighting next have some structure towards like moving towards a belt or winning a tournament or something like that. So it's still in the ecosystem, so to speak, of fight promotion. Like that's what they do. So that's why it's different in that way. And then if you look at like real Muay Thai that's out in the provinces, or Palong Mai or Pet Yin Gi or something like this, like their entire interest, their matchmaking, who gets to be on the fight cards, who they make their main event, who they keep as their stable of fighters, who they have relationships with, all of these things, all of that is within the Muay Thai community in Thailand. And so it's functional as a, I'm losing English words, Wongan Muay is what you would call it in Thailand, but it's like the fight community. It's like what any given business networks. It's like networking, like this. And so they rely on that. It's important for them to build relationships, maintain relationships, not piss people off. It's important who your last fight is and who your next fight is. You can't just like pick people out of the ether, have them fight your main event, because people will watch it. They don't care. They want it to be like, a good matchup, because there's gambling. So it has to be a fair matchup. It has to be a matchup that makes sense. You can't just feed people anyone in order to like make your main event and give them a belt and that kind of thing. So that's kind of the structure of real living Muay Thai, is that you have to maintain relationships with your audience. You have to maintain relationships with the gyms that you're pulling from. And there's a difference in that in entertainment Muay Thai, the fighter is kind of the like main focus, whereas in like Thailand's Muay Thai, fighters have a job and they do that thing, but they're kind of champions of the relationship between the promoter and the gym, which is actually more primary in that sense. So there's less like personality stardom. Even though people will like particular fighters, there's less personality stardom. That's just a little bit of background in order to get at what I was actually talking about. So what I thought of last night in terms of this like elitism and what I think about like why I don't watch this and why I don't think it's Muay Thai and people think I'm a snob about that, I was actually comparing it to like Chat GPT. So the way that works, like with the technology getting as good as it is and like what it's able to do, it feeds itself off of everything it can find on the internet. It scrubs, it goes through all this stuff. It can read every word that Nabokov ever wrote, right? And then it can write in the style of Nabokov, sound like Nabokov as it's, creating sentences and stuff. And so there are people who are like, oh my God, a machine, AI, can write like Nabokov. It can be Nabokov. And there are, musicians who are like, I don't like that this thing is singing using my voice, but like made up songs kind of thing. There's this threat to writers, like TV writers and stuff like that Chat will be taking their jobs and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And so there's a reality to it in that it is doing this thing that can kind of like imitate what a person's style is. But I, in my elitist snobbery, would make the argument that chatbot is not doing the same thing that Nabokov is doing. Because even though it's in his style, it's not thinking. It's not actually writing. It's choosing a word based on frequency, an algorithm of how often that word was used in any given text or across all of his texts. Whereas when Nabokov is writing, and this is something that I absolutely fucking love about him because he speaks like 7 languages or something, he may be writing a book in English. I'm reading it in English. He wrote it in English. And he'll choose a word at some moment that's in French or Russian. He just uses that word instead of the English word. And it means the same thing. Like, I'll use a mundane example because I don't actually know that many languages. But I'll use the example of bread, right? So he's like going along this sentence, and then instead of saying bread, you use pan or something, right? Or, I don't know, kanampang, which is Thai. The reason Nabokov chooses to change the language at that moment is not because he looked back at all of his work and he's used that word with a certain frequency and so now it's time to put that word in. he puts it in for, I don't know, because the sound is nicer, like the word pan sounds nicer in that moment than the word bread would. He might choose it because the shape of the word next to those other words looks really nice. He might choose it because in that language, that word has a slightly different connotation, even though it has the same meaning, to fit within his sentence. It's the choices he's making with that word have all of these kind of artistic, thoughtful experience of the reader, experience of the writer, all this different type of stuff going into choosing that word. And that is not how chat would decide which word goes there. I was listening to I think I maybe watched a documentary with this editor who works with this author. I think his name is Khan. I might forget. Kane or Khan. He writes these incredibly long books. It takes him like a decade or more to write a book. He wrote this like monster volume on Robert Moses, who's a whole fucking other thing. Kevin and I were listening to it audio in the car, and Kevin was like really into listening to this while he was riding his bike and stuff like this, and I actually had to be like, can we turn this off, because this guy is like a villain. Like, this is really intense, and it was like making me really upset. But the writing was very great. In this documentary we were watching, where the editor was talking about how much he struggles with this writer who he works with, again, for like a decade on a single book, they'll argue about commas and periods and sentence structure and stuff like that, which is probably very normal for editors. But then there's points that they like constantly come up against each other on, which would be like the frequency of a word. So the author will use a word many times within a couple of sentences in order to kind of emphasize the word. So he might use it several times so that now you're hearing it on repetition, almost the way you would in a song. Or you hear it in repetition and it has a slight different meaning in some of the sentences than other ones, and you're like, ooh, how cool, he's kind of like playing with that word. Whereas the editor is like, use a different fucking word. Like, use it once with other synonyms around it to emphasize that word, or you only need to use it in this one place. Whereas the author is like, no, I am emphasizing the word by repeating it, or I'm de-emphasizing the word by repeating it. These are like choices made by a writer who is artistic. Whereas a chatbot, when they're choosing the frequency of that word, or they're putting that word in, it's a little bit more like the predictive text that you have on your phone, where like this word should come after that word because that's usually what comes after that word. And it's not always right. And it's definitely not artistic. I don't know why, but every time I try to write the word every time I try to write the word make, my predictive text makes it into male. And I'm like, am I saying male that often in my text? Like, I don't think that I am. Like, why is it constantly choosing male over make? It's so crazy. And again, it's this thing that's like, this is not an artist, this is not a person, and the choices it's making have nothing to do with intuition or response or art, and a person does. So does it pass a Turing test? I don't know. We've gotten dumber and computers have gotten smarter, so like maybe they can pass the Turing test now. I'm not sure. Like, that gap is collapsing in both directions. But do I think that chat is the same as a writer? Like, no. Like, never, ever, no. And so it's not directly comparative, but this is how I feel when I'm saying I don't watch one because it's not Muay Thai. Muay Thai has also devolved over time, and it's kind of not in a great heyday at the moment. So you don't have the kind of like artistry, you don't have Nabokov, you have like, you know, I don't know, airport authors, something like this. It's not super artistic. It's not like, wow, this person's understanding of language is just incredible. Whereas when I watch some Golden Age fighters, I'm like, their understanding of language and like what movement they're gonna do. I was telling Kevin the other day that there's a huge difference between reacting and responding. And we were watching these fighters who like, they would kick back, like they'd get hit and they'd kick back, but it was like slightly too fast. And we're like, what is that? Where it's like, it's too fast. It doesn't look ning. And I came up explaining to Kevin, just with my immediate thought, I was like, the reason Karahat looks ning and this guy looks like he's rushing is that he's reacting to being hit, whereas Carhart responds to being hit. And to us, those two words and those two feelings are completely express the difference between those two things and totally makes sense in terms of like what that thing is. And so my elitist, snobbish attitude about what is Muay Thai and what isn't Muay Thai in a promotion that basically just wants fighters to clash together, to stay in the pocket, trade in the pocket. They don't really care about Zhangwat or Roop. Like, they don't care about what you look like being on balance while you're doing it. They don't care about how you choose weapons. They just want a lot of them and as hard as possible and try to get the knockout. That isn't Muay Thai to me. That's like the antithesis of Muay Thai to me. And so I literally don't like watching it. Like, it bums me out to watch it. I tried, like I watched some of the earlier ones. Sometimes I watch when I know someone who's on the card, and it still fucking bums me out. Like, even watching people who I know on the card, who I'm like, I want to watch my friend, or I want to watch someone I support, or like the student of one of the legends in the Muay Thai library who I support, who I like want to see what their fighters are doing. I actually want their fighters to do well. I want them to succeed, but fuck, I don't want to watch it. Like, I hate watching it. It bums me out. So I just don't watch it. I don't tell other people not to watch it. I am now explaining why I don't watch it, and if you agree with me, you might not watch it also. That's fine. I'm just making a point about it. So the kind of resistance to this becoming normal, I guess. Like, I saw this, I can't remember what it was, because honestly I consume way too much like trash content. I do scroll. I need to get off the internet. I need to stop doing this because it also makes me unhappy. So I should get away from it the same way I don't watch promotions that I don't like. Is that they were talking about slang and like how the way people talk changes regularly all the time. Like, the slang I used as a kid, I don't even really remember. I probably still use it, kind of thing, but I have no idea what the kids today are talking about. It's this whole like skibbity toilet thing that people keep making fun of, Riz, blah blah blah. And every generation thinks that the new generation's words are stupid and like they've taken it too far and all of this stuff. And this is completely normal. Like, language changes and is shaped all the time, and it tends to actually be carried and shaped mostly by women and children, because women do a lot of the at-home childcare, education, this kind of thing, and so they pick up what their kids are saying. Their kids are shaped by how their moms talk and all this stuff. So just historically, women and children have carried slang forward more than men or boys. Even though when I think of slang, I think of like 12-year-old boys like talking in a certain way, but I don't know. Someone in the comments of this was like, the problem with slang now is that they'll take up any word. Like, there's no discernment in like which words are cool or which ones aren't or something like that. And I laughed because I'm like, nobody ever fucking cares like which one's gonna catch on. This kid is like, or this guy, he's probably my age, was like, stop trying to make fetch happen. Fetch isn't gonna happen is how my day worked, but now fetch happens because one kid said it or something. And I was like, of course that's the case, because now everyone's on the internet and things get picked up. So like, one person says very demure, very mindful, and all of a sudden everyone is saying very demure, very mindful, like in all these different contexts, but it will blow over. Like, that will kind of disappear in, I don't know, 6 months or something like that. So it's much faster, but it's because our community contacts in the same way that like, and I don't mean this to be like a bad connotation, in the same way that germs spread much faster when you have a close-knit community, words are going to spread much faster when you have vector points that go so wide and so far that people are going to pick that up. That's just normal. But then added to this, you have chatbots that are like, I see a frequency of this word, which means that's how people are talking, and I'm going to start pushing forward this word, pushing forward this concept. So like, not only are we more connected to each other and kind of, picking up from each other these little kennel cough ways of talking or concepts or conspiracy theories or fucking whatever it is, but we also have non-human AI bots feeding that back to us. It feeds itself on our ridiculousness, and then it like a bacteria proliferates itself, and then it feeds it back out to us. And Kevin was freaking out yesterday because he had written a very carefully polite, thought out answer to something that he thought was really stupid, and then he went and he looked back at the OP and it says that it was written by AI, and he got so upset that he patiently responded to something that he thought was stupid, and then found out that it was written by an AI. And he's like, I was being generous and cautious and the way I would to a person who just doesn't understand, to a robot. And it's kind of this thing where it's like the frequency of something is actually only going to make that thing more frequent. So there's a kind of infrequency or specificity or uniqueness or something to Golden Age Muay Thai, where they had kind of personalities and styles, their styles expressed their personalities. They kind of stood out from each other, whereas now it's just kind of all a wash. Everyone is a little bit more uniform and similar to each other. And so you pick up the frequency of someone doing I don't know, a back fist or something, and then everyone sees it and everyone starts imitating it, and now there's just a whole bunch of back fists, but there's no actual context to it. There's no technique, there's no understanding the timing of when you would use that, there's no understanding of how to actually land it, that kind of thing, which is more how it would have come about more organically, that you would see there's the Golden Age kick, which you don't really see that kick anymore, and that's because it came up through the pedagogy of camps and then appeared in the stage, and then maybe kids would see it when they were watching Muay Thai on TV and try to imitate it, but their trainers knew what that was, and so they would kind of pick up on it. If you have a bunch of kids in your class, in your English class, who are looking at their phones and picking up Riz and Skitty Toilet and stuff like that, and then they're sitting in an English class and their teacher is like, I have no fucking idea what you're talking about or what you're doing, you're gonna be teaching things at odds with each other as opposed to with each other. And I feel like the way that people look at entertainment Muay Thai, which does not have to work, it doesn't have to fit within beauty or posture or balance or structure. One fight has absolutely nothing to do with any other fight. A fighter has absolutely nothing to do with the actual ecosystem of other promotions. It's just this kind of single stage kind of thing. When that gets picked up and seen as frequent and then proliferated by the little bots that are us, and then also highlight reels and clips, and kind of the whole purpose is to create content. And so that content, that highlight reel, that knockout reel gets kind of pushed out into the internet, and people who aren't familiar with what any of this is see it and they're like, oh my god, that's so amazing, and then it gets taken out of context and kind of pushed in this other direction. It's just kind of chaotic or something. Entertaining? Sure. If what you're trying to be is entertaining, if what you're trying to do is pop someone's dopamine for 4 seconds before they scroll on to the other thing, mission accomplished. You are actually doing what you set out to do, and congratulations. This is totally you're taking something from a different context and purposing it for your own context of look at this advertiser or whatever the thing is. But that's not what fighting is. That's not what being a fighter is. That's not what Muay Thai is. That's not what an art form is. That's not what martial arts is. So I find it weird that people are so okay with that. And I think part of it is that there's not transparency, or at least people don't recognize what it is. And so I started this talking about how one is not actually a fight promotion. That's not what they do. That's not their purpose. Their business is selling their business to investors, creating content, creating highlight reels, knockout reels, blah, 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 all this stuff. I think that people understand now that, like, when they use Facebook or TikTok or Instagram or any of these like social media platforms, Facebook's business model is not keeping you connected to your high school friends. It's not making sure that your gran can keep up with your goings on. That's how we use it. Like, that's maybe I'm still friends with people from high school who I would definitely fucking have lost contact with, and I'm happy to still see them. But it's being used in this way that is not the purpose of that business. The business of Facebook and Instagram and TikTok is not like, I'm going to make you happy by having you learn this little dance and like put it up and all this stuff and like look at how great we're connecting people to each other. That might be how they sell it. That might be how they sell it to you, is that they're keeping you connected to the world and giving you news and kind of like, positive communal feelings or something like that. But what they're actually doing is selling to advertisers, and the way that they get to sell to advertisers is by getting you to create content, which drives the machine, drives the algorithm, and it causes you to spend more and more and more time on the platform. So the purpose is not making you happy. The purpose is making you spend more time on the platform, and anything they can do by making things shorter, by making things scroll automatically, by making your sound play automatically until you turn it off, all of these things that drive engagement, they want engagement so that you spend more time on there, so that advertisers want to be there, and they're basically selling their product to advertisers, and that's how they make their money. You are not actually a consumer. You don't pay for these platforms. You are basically labor, and you're creating content for them so that they can make money from these advertisers, and you're the one having to deal with all these advertisers. That's the same thing I'm talking about when I say that one is not actually a fight promotion, because their aim, their purpose, their business model is not promoting fights. Promoting fights is just a means of selling themselves to these investors. So that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about there. And I don't know, people like uninstall Facebook all the time. People are like, I'm not on Instagram anymore. I don't do TikTok, like whatever the thing is. I don't watch one. Like, that's not a platform that I put my engagement and my effort and my, attention towards, because I don't like it. I'm also not on TikTok. I don't understand it. I'm old. I don't want to learn new platforms. That's fine. That's fine. You guys do whatever you want to do. But that's my reasoning. And so I don't think I've ever like directly spoken this long, this intensely towards why I don't watch one or why I don't like one. I've kind of, in a more general sense, talked about why I resist 3-round Muay Thai, why I don't really like entertainment Muay Thai, what's happening to the shape of traditional Muay Thai, why I do like traditional Muay Thai, why I do like festival fights, why I like the golden age, this kind of thing. I talk about these things because I think about these things. I don't sit there and be like, I want to trash talk one particular thing until, people kind of very directly want to know about that one particular thing. So this is not me advertising why one sucks for everybody. This is me answering very directly, because people have now asked me very directly, way more people than I can answer individually, why I said what I said and why I kind of have this resistance. And so that's my direct answer to that. And in the future, when I am asked this question, you're gonna have to sit through a 34-minute video in order to hear why I don't watch one. All right, thanks guys.